Hello everybody and welcome to Car Confections. Now sitting behind us is our very own 2025 Toyota Camry. And this Camry gets really good fuel economy, and we're going to be actually putting that EPA rating to the test today to see if it actually lives up to that 47 MPG. Let's go ahead and get into it.
All right, so before we fill her up here, let's talk just briefly about what is under the hood. So, like Mason was saying, this is the 2025 Camry. The big news is that this is hybrid exclusive. So that means no matter what, you're always going to get the 5th generation hybrid system. Now, fuel economy will vary a little bit depending on which trim level you get. This is an XSE with front wheel drive. That means it's rated at 47 miles per gallon combined. It's also rated at 48 city and 47 highway. So we're right next to the interstate. We're getting ready to start our 150-mile road trip. But first, of course, let's go ahead and fill it up. So this Camry, of course, does take regular fuel. And this has a 13-gallon fuel tank. You got a little slot there to hold that up. And we're going to fill it up until it clicks. So that will obviously tell us when it is full. And then when we're finished with the test, we're going to fill it up again and see how many gallons we use. That way we can manually calculate it. We're not going to rely on what the car tells us. We're just going to use that for reference and then manually calculate it at the end.
All right, guys, so we are off to the races in our all-new 2025 Toyota Camry when it comes to the highway fuel economy test. Before we get going here, I do want to just mention a couple of the ground rules so we all know what we're operating on here. First and foremost, we're going to be following the speed limit, which is 70 miles per hour here on I-75. We're going to be, doing that as closely as possible. Of course, maybe for some safety issues, we might have to go a little faster, a little slower. But we'll be definitely trying to keep it at that 70 mile per hour range. We're also going to have the climate control on, just the automatic mode. So yes, the air conditioning is on, and we'll be dividing this into 4 different segments. So we'll be roughly doing a check-in every 40 miles to see how the fuel economy is holding up against that EPA estimate.
I also want to draw your attention to this fuel range here. Check that out. Nearly 500 miles after that fill up. So that's very, very impressive. Tells me, of course, the car is anticipating it's going to perform very well on this test.
It has high hopes, I believe, because it only has a 13-gallon fuel tank, so you can do the math on that. That's really good fuel range out of that small of a tank. But we're going to actually put that to the test, so we'll see you in about another 40 miles. Well, we are getting close to checkpoint number 1, where we've driven 40 miles. We're not quite there yet, but we do want to point a couple things out before we get to that 40-mile mark. Drew wanted to point out that we did wait until at least 1,000 miles.
Right. Sometimes it takes a car a little bit of time to get broke in, basically. So do want to say that we gave it that period of time. We always, any of the cars that we own, we like to do 1,000 miles. That should be plenty of time. And indeed, we actually have seen in our day-to-day driving, it seems like the fuel economy has been improving as we got more and more miles on it. So right now we're at 1,110 miles.
I also want to point out, if you're curious about the city fuel economy, we're also going to be getting that. Of course, we own this Camry. We're going to be doing a lot of long-term tests on this vehicle, so one of those is going to be a city fuel economy test as well. We wanted to separate them out so you can know highway and city, and then you can get the best of both worlds.
Right. After we get that, we're going to combine it, and make our own, basically, Car Confections combined fuel economy figure, because that is, real world, so that we can actually give you that real world figure instead of the EPA's figure.
All right, and now it is time for us to do our first check-in as to how the fuel economy is over the first 40 miles. So let me go ahead and snap a picture of it so you guys can see it on the screen right now. That's 40 even right there. All right, so 40 miles on the dot. We've actually been 40 minutes in this, so we've been doing a mile a minute, and what the car is telling us is 45.4 as our overall trip average across that 40-mile mark. So, of course, this vehicle, rated by the EPA, you can see on the window sticker right here, it is going to be rated to go 47 miles per gallon on the highway. So we are sitting very close to that figure. We're not quite as good as what the EPA is saying, but of course, keep in mind that we will be manually calculating the fuel economy later on as well. So we're not just relying on what the car is saying, we're going to manually calculate it, so math will truly tell us how much fuel we're using.
Right, and we still got a ways to go.
Well, it's time for our second check-in. We have been cruising along the highway for a little over an hour at this point, and we've made it to the 80-mile mark. So let's go ahead and check in and see how the fuel economy is averaging out. Let me go ahead and snap a picture so you guys can see it on the screen right now. There we go. And what are we sitting at? Well, we're sitting at 45.8 miles per gallon is what the car is saying across that 80-mile interval. Now, it is worth noting that is going to be very similar to what we had before. The previous check-in was 45.4, so it doesn't appear to be changing much here on this second check-in at all. But still sitting slightly below the EPA's numbers. But
so far, it's been a very comfortable ride down the interstate. Definitely a good ride quality on board with this Camry. This is kind of one of our probably longest single trip that we've made with this so far in owning it, and it's been very pleasant so far. So we'll just keep on cruising until the next check-in.
The adaptive cruise does seem to be working pretty well too, but you keep popping up a little bit of an annoying message about the steering itself. So
yeah, the lane trace wants you to keep turning the steering wheel even when the road is completely straight. So that's a little annoying, but otherwise it's working well.
If you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
And now it's time for checkpoint number 3, and we have some pretty exciting news for this checkpoint because our fuel economy has actually increased. And what is that fuel economy? Well, let me just go ahead and grab a quick picture so you can see it on the screen right now. But we are sitting at, drumroll please, 47.5 MPG after driving 120 miles in this Camry. So certainly the fuel economy did go up quite a bit on this leg. Now we are doing a loop, so of course, there's variation in the road surfaces. Sometimes you go up and down a few more hills, and what we've been noticing this time around is going down hills, the engine certainly will be off, which is going to increase that fuel economy number, that's for sure.
But of course, we still got one more leg to go in this loop, and we're going to be very curious to see what this final number is when we calculate it. So, let's keep on driving.
Drum roll, please. We just pulled off the interstate after finishing our 157-mile drive today, and we are about to fill up at the gas pump and see how much gas we used on that 157-mile drive to check with the car as well.
As far as what the car is reporting, 48.4 is the latest number that we got here with the car. But now it's time to dig into the manual numbers because we've seen how many gallons it took to fill it up, and Mason's going to start calculating here.
Yeah, so as you can see, it took about 3.3 gallons to be exact. Because, of course, mathematically speaking, you have to be pretty exact. 3.312 gallons is how much it took to go 157.1 miles. Now, you may notice that initial picture was a little bit lower. We did have to pull off and use the restroom, so we had to add 2 of the miles together. Now, 157.1 divided by that 3.312. That's going to equal, I don't know if the camera will be able to see it, but 47.4, miles per gallon. Manually calculated, so that's not just taking the car's word for it. 47.4 MPG is what we're getting. That is very much on par with what the EPA said.
Yeah, I was
actually, as a matter of fact, we can pull out the window sticker right here. The EPA says 47 highway right there. 47 combined, but 47 highway. So definitely something worth noting is that the numbers are pretty much adding up here.
That's legit. Yeah. Seems like you're definitely going to get that EPA estimate for sure on the highway. So very impressed by that.
Yeah, that's a good number. I also want to just take a second here and point out, if you're interested in the city portion of the drive, this was just a highway cruise, what you can expect. We will be doing that very shortly. We're going to be doing the city numbers. The EPA is rating this at 48, so we're going to see if it lives up to that as well. So be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and stay tuned to the channel, because we'll be doing that very soon. So pay attention.
Now, if you're new to the channel, this 2025 Camry XSE Hybrid is our long-term tester. And we've got a lot of other content on this model on the channel right now, as well as upcoming. So if you're interested in the Camry at all, this is the place to be, so you can learn everything you need to know about it. And of course, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you enjoyed this video, we'd really appreciate if you went down below and clicked subscribe. That supports us and helps us make more content like this. If you're already a part of our Car Confections family, we appreciate your long-term support. And we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.